Hi everyone, welcome. My name is Tran. This is sportnosport.com. This is Controversial Corner. With me, I have former right winger for the NHL, Boston Bruins, Terry O'Reilly. Terry, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Maya. It's a pleasure to be here.
All right. Well, you spent your entire 14-year career in the NHL with the Boston Bruins, correct?
In the penalty box.
In the penalty box. Oh, my goodness. Well, we have to get into that a little bit later.
Just a good portion of it.
Well, it must have been an amazing feeling to have the Bruins retire your number 24 to the rafters.
Oh, it was a great honor. It was one of the most exciting nights of my life.
Well, we can see the excitement that was on your face that night, but can you just take us back a little bit and tell us exactly what was going through your head that evening?
Well, that evening I had not written my speech yet. I was going to speak for about 10 or 15 minutes before they raised the sweater up, and I was still writing that speech. I flew in from New York. I was working in New York, so I flew in on a charter plane writing the speech, and I landed and I took a car to the hotel writing the speech and changed into my suit, and I was actually walking in the garden still making notes, so I wasn't thinking about anything except what I was going to say.
And you weren't nervous either, right?
Oh, I was very nervous. I just hadn't nailed it down yet, but it was right at the last minute, and it's all handwritten notes, and I pulled it out of my pocket and laid it on the podium, and my two sons were with me, and they glanced at the chicken scratch I had there, and they had this horrified look on their face. You know, they thought they'd see something all double-spaced typed, ready for a teleprompter, but it was just little notes that I'd made.
Wow, well that sounds amazing, but I'm sure that was an amazing night for all hockey fans as well.
Oh, it was a great night for me, my family. My mom was in town, all my brothers, just the large part of my family and friends and relatives, and it's a night that we will never forget.
Wonderful. So you're known to be one of the tougher guys in the league during your career. I think you were nicknamed the Tasmanian Devil, correct?
Yes, Phil Esposito gave me that name, and I think it was because I skated like, you've seen the cartoon character. He spins around and falls down a lot. That's how I played the game, and Phil named me that in practice one day, and it just stuck. It was an easy nickname because they shortened it to Taz.
And perhaps a few scratches here and there too?
Oh, a few scraps, but back then, if you think of the names of the teams, the Big Bad Bruins, the Broad Street Bullies, the game was a very, very physical game. There weren't a lot of rules restricting the amount of fighting that went on, and the benches used to clear, and there would be brawls and second and third and fourth fights, and they've gradually edited that part of the game out of it.
So now, I've got to ask, and probably not for your gentle touch, but ever thought about boxing?
Have I thought about boxing in terms of, do I want to box, or did I box?
In terms of, do you think boxing should be defined as a sport?
Well, boxing historically has been a major sport. You think of the name of Muhammad Ali. I mean, he is a legend, world famous, and what was he? He was a boxer. But where we're headed, we're headed in a direction where violence in sports is being weeded out, and I think that might threaten the future of boxing eventually, as it's affecting fighting in hockey. Hockey is the only sport that allows you to drop your gloves and get into a fist fight, but if you examine the rule changes over the years, the intent is to restrict it and limit it, and eventually it won't be acceptable. And I think, given enough time, we might look at boxing the same way.
Well, hopefully, maybe someday we can get Muhammad Ali to defend that.
Well, certainly, if anyone could, he certainly could. Unfortunately, he's in the later stages of Parkinson's, and I went to a charity event a couple of years ago in Phoenix that he hosted, and he still is a commanding presence.
Well, since you feel that boxing is a sport, and you just explained to us why, let's move on to wrestling. Do you think wrestling is a sport? No sport.
I think it's a sport, definitely a sport. There's different types of wrestling. You got sumo wrestlers and traditional wrestlers over here in Canada and the United States. It's not as violent, I don't think. I think the difference between wrestling and boxing is that an athlete can get permanently injured and suffer severe brain damage from boxing. Wrestling, you might pull a shoulder or twist a knee, but that's the same risk as any other sport.
And of course, Terry, don't forget the WWE.
Well, I'm not sure if you can call that wrestling. That's entertainment.
Entertainment. Well, let's see if Hulk Hogan would agree with that or disagree.
Well, I think that Hulk Hogan is an entertainer, and I was talking wrestling strictly in the tournament style, where you get points for a takedown, for an escape, for pushing somebody out of the circle. That's the wrestling I was concerned. I didn't even think of WWE wrestling.
Right. Well, when we think of wrestling, everyone's thinking of WWE now these days, right?
Well, no, I don't.
All right. Well, can you give us one example of an athletic event that you feel that is in a sport?
Well, as we were discussing earlier, ballroom dancing is on a list to be considered a sport, and singing, and I think they're just carrying it too far. Some of those events fall into the category of entertainment as far as I'm concerned.
All right. There you have it, Terry. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much for your time. There you have it, Terry O'Reilly, former player and coach of the Boston Bruins, on sportnosport.com. I'm Tran for Controversial Corner. Till next time, sport on.